We are fresh out of Royal Rumble and on our way to WrestleMania with a little stop of Elimination Chamber in between. What happened at Royal Rumble and where are we going as we get into the Elimination Chamber side of things? We're going to talk about it in today's show of WrstlXtra. Stay tuned.
Yo, this is WrstlXtra. I am back, like Cody Rhodes. I'm your boy, A Dazzle, the Black Wrestling Advocate, of course, joined by my trios team. Mex the WrestleManiac, if you will, and the professor that is Gerard Bonner. Yes, I am here with the boys back again. The boys held down last week. Thankfully, did a great job. That's how good the show was, because, if I wasn't jealous, I'd be like, all right, let's sort it out. But they did a great job talking all things about Raw last week, Raw 30th, and, the black influence on wrestling, bringing up guys like Ahmed Johnson and Where Was Our Truth and all that kind of stuff. But we're back together again. Me back as Biggie with Xavier.
That's hilarious.
Let's get into it. We had Royal Rumble, one of my favorite shows. The year coincides with my birthday weekend, so it's a bit of a birthday tradition for me. The Royal Rumble happened on Saturday. It was, in general, I was actually quite impressed with the whole thing. It wasn't perfect. There's certain things we probably will talk about on the show today. But in general, I liked it. Gerard, let me go to you first. How do you think the whole show from start to finish was for you?
I think cover to cover, it's one of the best Royal Rumbles we've seen. I feel like Triple H and WWE had a lot to prove with this Royal Rumble. We remember last year's Royal Rumble event where both the men's and women's match and the main event, all of those things were things we were all highly upset with. And so I feel like they had a lot to prove. First Rumble for Triple H as head of creative, and then really being able to keep us focused on the in-ring product, given all that's happened with the rumors of sale and all these other things. I think they did an incredible job. I mean, they announced last night that it was the most watched Royal Rumble in history. Certainly when it comes to the socials, the streets were talking and nobody was talking about a sale. So it says to me they did the right thing. It was an amazing show.
I saw, I believe it was on Raw for a few seconds. They showed that the socials got over 200 million views over those 2 days, the Royal Rumble and the day after. So that's amazing. Mex, what do you think? How did you feel it went for you? Was you excited? Did you leave the Royal Rumble excited for what we're getting on this road to WrestleMania?
I definitely left the Rumble feeling excited. Overall, as a show, I think it was a good show. It's sometimes difficult to book these because even when you're just looking at it, like I done prediction show last week, and it's like you got the 2 Rumble matches, and it's like only 3 singles matches, and it's like, and then the Bray Wyatt stuff was Bray Wyatt stuff. And the Bianca stuff was like a spin-off of the Bray Wyatt stuff. And then, of course, we had this magnificent main event, especially the main event angle, following that show, where I guess, on one way you're watching the men's Rumble and thinking, does a certain Mr. Johnson show up there? Or when this whole angle was happening and almost, dragged out, I say, but in a positive note because it's building tension. You're thinking you're just waiting for that. If you smell, like you're just waiting for it, and it didn't come either. But at the same time, I don't think it was missed because of how good that angle was. So yeah, it was a very good show. Just completely ended with an amazing angle, one that we haven't seen to that level of tension and that level of drama for God knows how long. So
very, very long time.
Yeah, it was a good show. It really was.
So let's get into this whole thing, especially with this main event. You know, we're going to WrestleMania. We're on the road to WrestleMania now, and the whole talk has been for probably like 2 years, probably longer, that we're supposed to have The Rock versus Roman Reigns. It's quite clear that that's now not happening. It's not impossible. It's not impossible, but for me, I'm now like, all right, this. How do you make it work if it's going to happen? I don't really see it happening. Do any of you guys feel as though we're missing out? Do we need The Rock and Reigns at Mania? Or is this, you know, this whole thing with Sammy, this whole thing with Cody, is that still enough for the biggest stage of them all?
I would say they're doing the right thing for the sake of the growth of the business and who's available to them right now. The choices they're making is the right choices. You know, by all reports, it's going to be Sami Zayn at Elimination Chamber. Looking at Cody Rhodes versus Roman main event, probably night of Mania. And yeah, the Rock not being there, they've basically shown, and I put out a video about this, that if you write a story well, you won't need to rely on all of these old plays and all of this other stuff. If you're able to have a good, consistent story, no matter what the story is, like these guys shouldn't have to be. It's like in the past, especially WWE have, you know, the old what do they call it? They used to have these in like schools and stuff, break glass in case of emergency, and then you know. Save the fire or whatever like that. That's how they've used legends. And, you know, not that The Rock was going to be used in this way per se, but yeah, they now can see that the people are happy with what you've been giving us. And if I'm correct, this WrestleMania was sold out. You know, there's no mention of The Rock anywhere near it. People did think obviously it's going to be here, he's going to be here, and maybe bought tickets and stuff off that, but they've said the show has sold out. They haven't had to splash on whatever The Rock would cost them, so I guess on their part that might be a win as well. I mean, for me, I wanted to see The Rock, but I can see they've done an excellent job without him. If I'm clasping at straws here, the only last place I think we might see The Rock, which I don't think we're gonna see it, but the only place we can shoehorn him in now is if, like, you know, we saw Jey Uso was quite upset and went off, and if Jey Uso goes to call who the real head of the table is to kind of put Roman in his place, that's the last place I can really see them putting him into this without the story being, you know, completely messed up. But I'm completely happy with how things are. Upset because I'm planning to go and I'm not going to see The Rock there, but I'm happy with just, you know, the ability to tell a story and how it's basically paid off without the payoff even not happening yet. Like,
Gerard, do you feel as though with it being, you know, the WrestleMania at Hollywood, all the rest of it, obviously The Rock being his Hollywood megastar, world known, all of that, do you think that WrestleMania now misses out without The Rock? And is this kind of like the last chance to kind of have this whole Rock Roman thing happen?
No, I don't think WrestleMania is missing out at all. What's amazing to me is, you know, as of yesterday, I know it's way more now, but as of yesterday, early yesterday, the ending of that match on WWE socials had over 20 million views. And that was by yesterday. I know that number is much larger now. What is being proven right now is that, you know, they can bet on them, right? They don't have to depend on all of these other people to be able to make something work. The story that we have gotten with the bloodline has been so good that whether The Rock shows up or not, we're going to be satisfied. And there are so many options that they have right now that, I mean, think about this. We knew Cody would somehow be involved in the main event because he's Cody. Nobody really pictured Sammy last year this time, because last year this time, Sammy was getting ready to be in a program with Johnny Knoxville, right? Like to go from there to being connected to the #1 guy in this industry and where everybody wants to see you fight him, it says WWE has built this product well. They have advanced these storylines well. They have inspired the talent well enough to be able to say, we can go forward. I think Royal Rumble proved that they didn't have to call in a bunch of legends to make the night work. So I don't think we're missing out on anything with WrestleMania. Here's what's funny. You'll remember probably a decade or so ago, ironically, when CM Punk lost the WWE title at the Royal Rumble to The Rock, the biggest complaint that he and many others had was, why are you bringing part-timers in when we've done the work all year? I think this gets to be the first WrestleMania in recent memory where the people who did the work all year long actually get the payoff at WrestleMania. And we can't be mad at that because we've been cheering those folks on all year long, hoping that they would get opportunities, wishing that they would get opportunities. So we're getting that. We can't be mad for getting what we asked for.
No, for sure, for sure. And I think that's, for me, that's the only thing with this whole thing, with it being WrestleMania in Hollywood, for me, was the only reason why they would bring in The Rock. Or it was like, you know, the dream to bring in The Rock, the big, you know, the big show.
And what's to say it's still not going to happen?
True. It's not impossible. It's not impossible. You know, WrestleMania was built off the back of it being, you know, trying to transcend the pro wrestling game. Obviously, the first ever one had Muhammad Ali. They brought in Mr. T, all these kind of Cyndi Lauper, all these other people. And over the years, we've seen so many different faces and famous people who are not necessarily, you know, whether they be legends of wrestling, whether they be, you know, other showbiz personalities and whatever else. So it would have been amazing to have The Rock there, but at the same time, as you said, all these guys have now done the work. The storyline has been one of the best storylines that we've seen in a very, very long time. But my thing is this: now the big talking point in wrestling in general is, are they making a mistake with it being Cody Rhodes as opposed to Sami Zayn? Is that a thing? Let me say this real quick. One mistake that WWE made was announcing Cody Rhodes before the Rumble match.
I agree.
Apparently, they said, or someone said, that you know, the reason why they made the announcement beforehand is because they had enough surprises throughout the rest of the night.
Yeah.
Logan Paul, your biggest surprise? I mean, he did well. He did very well. But apart from that, there was no big surprise. And yes, the last segment was amazing, but it wasn't necessarily a surprise. It was just a great moment. So I think that now is tarnishing the fans' mind, as in, okay, is Cody Rhodes really the guy? Should it be Sami Zayn because he has, you know, naturally become the biggest face, whereas Cody Rhodes, maybe more so because of his time away, is now kind of like, it's a little bit too predictable. This whole thing feels predictable. He came in at number 30 as well, and he did great. But what's everyone's feelings on this whole Sami Cody thing?
So let me, because we're both chomping. I can see it on next. So it's like, so let me start by saying this. Number one, I think people have forgotten the unpredictability of the road to WrestleMania. Now we have to do a good history lesson. Let's go back to 2004, I believe is the year, where you know, we had a Royal Rumble. Yeah, it was 2004. We had a Royal Rumble winner in those, they say we can't name him, but he was the other guy that nobody mentions, who was number one, who won the Rumble. That guy, right? Yeah. So it seemed very, very clear, you know, that he would be in a match fighting someone for the main event. Brock Lesnar was the world champion at that point, and so was Triple H. And then this little event happened in between the Rumble and WrestleMania, where some random guy named Eddie Guerrero got a shot at the world title, came in and upset everything, right? And now WrestleMania looks completely different. Given this era of Triple H, knowing that we don't want to predict the road to WrestleMania, I want to pose a question, and that is this: does it make more sense for Sami Zayn to become the world champion at WrestleMania, or in his hometown of Montreal at the Elimination Chamber. Do you realize that as loud as LA wants to be, nobody's going to be louder than Montreal?
No,
and think about this. You almost, in a weird way, make up for the Montreal screw job. In Montreal, if Sammy walks away as the world champion, we wipe away all anger about Bret Hart. We wipe away that horrible memory because now you've given the people what they want, and the whole world would applaud this move. And then you bring in Rock to have the whole battle about the tribal chief, who's the head of the table at WrestleMania. Just my 2 cents.
Big facts.
So you're saying with that we get Cody versus Sammy at Mania?
Possibly. Think about that. Or who knows if something happens between Mania or between Elimination Chamber and Mania. Right. We got 6 weeks. You know, I'm just saying that I don't think it's going to be as cut and dry as we think. Now, could Roman get there? Yeah. Will people then potentially argue that Cody didn't beat the right person at Mania? Maybe, maybe not. But doesn't Sami Zayn deserve a shot as champion, given all he's done in the last, not just year, but years, right? I think one of the things that has happened traditionally at Mania over the last probably 6 to 7 years has been there's always been somebody that they didn't plan for who gets red hot right around the world title picture. Daniel Bryan, Kofi Kingston, these people who were not supposed to be the guy suddenly becomes the guy. Sami Zayn was never supposed to be in this spot. And now he's think about this. Everybody at Royal Rumble had a horrible chant for Roman by the end of the night. We finally got the people mad at Roman, and they all love Sammy. This is writing itself.
It only took us 8 years. It only took us 8 years for the crowd to boo Roman.
Right, exactly. Exactly.
You see what? Like, I've been flopping. Like, since about September, October, I thought, yes, sentimentally, I didn't expect WWE to do it. I probably still don't expect them to do it. But Sammy should get that spot because that's where we're going to. You can see all the momentum. You know, Saturday night was pretty much confirmation that, you know, he is the top baby face in the company. Yeah. And Cody done a great job on Monday Night Raw coming out, kind of reaffirming himself in that position, saying that, you know, Roman is all these things he says he is, but after Mania, he can keep all those titles in terms of being tribal chief, head of the table. He just won't be the world champion. Like, great promo, and you can see he's heating back up. Yeah. But right now, the top baby face in the company is not Cody Rhodes. I'm sorry. It's Sami Zayn. Now, will they do it? This is the thing. Triple H is a different man to Vince. But we can't lie. Vince, especially being back, is probably leaning over Triple H and watching his every move. Like, to make Sami Zayn world champion, beating Roman, and they would have to do it with shenanigans. I'm sorry, because as much as I want Sami Zayn to win, if he pins that man 1, 2, 3 in the middle of the ring without shenanigans, I'm going off.
I'll start watching.
I'm going off. But I mean, I think it's pretty much, unfortunately, as cut and dry as they are basically presenting it. I don't see much change. Sammy will get his chance at the Elimination Chamber. I'm expecting Jey Uso to screw Sami Zayn, and then we'll go off into the tag team picture that was probably always meant to happen. I'll be very surprised if there's any real twist and turns, aka title changes, between now and Mania around the world title picture.
And for me, this is my 2 cents of this whole thing. I just think it's one of those things where they didn't plan for this to happen, but I just don't think they'll then accommodate for it, if that makes sense. So, you know, they've already had this plan of making Cody Rhodes champion. Out of everyone, we've had this discussion numerous times on the show. Who is the person to beat Roman Reigns? We only ever come up with like 2 or 3 names: Seth Rollins, Cody Rhodes, possibly Bobby Lashley. Like, that's it. To then add Sami Zayn in this picture, Mex, I'm gonna go back to, like, you know, the video that you guys did with Wrestlings, and you had, you know, the tier ranking. Who's gonna beat Roman Reigns? Sami Zayn was what, E? Like, all the way.
I think he was like C or D or something.
Yeah, that
like,
was them. But you know, I still think he's probably gone a little higher up because of popularity. But in terms of in the WWE's eyes, I don't see it happening. They'll give him his chance. They'll make a big thing of it. You know, Montreal Elimination Chamber and all the rest of it. And I think it's going to be very similar to what Mick said, where Sami will get very close, but he'll be screwed over, and then we'll go to something else. Now, the beauty of it is, though, it doesn't mean that's the end of it for any kind of future plans for Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn to become a world champion and all the rest of it. If that happens in another way, or he beats Roman Reigns at some other pay-per-view when Roman's not the champion anymore, would that be fair? Would the fans be happy with that? I'm not sure, but at the same time, for me, that would still be Sami's beaten the head of the table. I just don't see WWE doing it. I mean, they tried to have The Rock. There's no bigger star than The Rock. Cody Rhodes is kind of known outside of wrestling as well. Obviously, he had his TV show and reality TV, blah blah blah, AEW, all the rest of it, and it. I don't see them thinking, "Oh, yes, we know the fans love Sami Zayn. Let's put him as the champion instead of Cody." I just don't see it.
For me, if they don't do it now, then they probably won't do it.
Right.
Like, and if they do it, if he wins the title outside of beating Roman, it's almost like a consolation prize. Now, a very easy way for them to do it is, you know, Money in the Bank. He wins Money in the Bank, and then whoever is champion, he pins one of those people or whatever. Especially if they're going to split the titles. It will feel good. It's a feel good moment, but it's not how it should have come at the end of this kind of story. So I can't even lie. Would I want to see it? I don't know. Like, I want to see it now because of the story that's being told around it. But I don't know if I want to see it any other way, unless you could sell it to me another way.
But then, Gerard, answer me this. So if it went the way that, you know, the fans want it, the way we want it, and all the rest of it, and somehow Sami beats Roman, becomes champion, what then is his championship reign like? Because we've had it a few times where we've gotten behind a certain person, they then become champion, and then all the magic has kind of faded, kind of thing. You know, we've seen it with Rey Mysterio. You can argue the same thing happened with Kofi Kingston. I believe something similar happened with, I think it was Kevin Owens. There have been others where we've backed them, they become champion, then you're like, oh, okay, cool. The moment happened when they became champion. After that, what's next?
Well, I think, and this just kind of hit me, which is like, wow, should he win the title, say, at Elimination Chamber? One of the first things that I think he will do, which will endear him even more to the fans, is say, I'm going to right the wrongs of Roman Reigns. And one of the first wrongs that Roman did was unifying these titles. So I'm going to split the titles. And I think that's a move right there where people go, wait, are you kidding me? Like, who would? But we've been wanting that to happen. And then from there, I think he just continues to endear himself to the fans. The thing we have to remember is Sami has had great matches. We can look back and find great, from NXT to Ring of Honor to WWE. He's had great matches. So in terms of in the ring, could he get it done and have a great title reign? I absolutely think he can. He, by his own admission, says he doesn't know if WWE would view him as the guy, which is why splitting the titles would make more sense, because at that point, he doesn't have to be the guy. He can remember Lashley wasn't considered the guy, but he was the WWE champion. So I think we could have a world coming out of Mania where Cody holds one title, Sami holds the other title, You know, Roman doesn't lose any luster in all of it if he ends up in a spot against Rock or maybe even Jey Uso, or God forbid we get a Jey Uso Sami Zayn match at Mania. Like, because the other thing we have to consider is Jey Uso has announced in a post, he said, I'm out.
Yep.
And so I don't know if that means he's out of the bloodline by his own volition or what. So could Jay be the one that costs Roman the championship in Montreal? Like, that's the cool thing about this is there are lots of ways for it to go. And because there are lots of ways, it could produce Sammy as a great champion. You know, think about this. All Sammy really needs to do to be a great champion is end up in a program with Kevin Owens. You got Kevin Owens, you got Roman Reigns, you got Jey Uso. Any of those three in a program with Sammy, we're going to get some amazing, amazing matches if Sammy's champion.
It's mad. It's crazy. The one thing I know. Go on.
Now, I've literally just thought of this as Gerard was speaking. Imagine Elimination Chamber, yeah. Roman Reigns has got Sami Zayn in his guillotine hold submission. A figure that we haven't seen for the past month in Jey Uso, because he said he's out. He hasn't been around on TV or nothing. Emerges in the Timeskeeper area. Ding, 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 starts hitting the bell, just like Montreal Screwjob. And they call it Roman retains.
Screwjob Part 2.
Wow. Do you think they'd be daring enough to do that?
I mean, if they really want
to in Montreal,
it's doable.
I don't think Sammy will mind it, especially if they're not going to make him champion. It'll be a good way to kind of protect him as well. And then obviously you didn't get that heat with Jay.
Wow.
Interesting.
Wow.
I mean, I like the idea of the possibility of, you know, Sammy going away with at least one championship. Roman still probably going to WrestleMania to fight to defend against Cody Rhodes at Mania. You know, it would make sense. How they do that, I have absolutely no idea. To make sense of it, to kind of still keep Roman as this head of the table, or as you know, the magnitude that he's at the moment, to then head to Mania with just the one title. Not too sure. But then at the same time, I'm not a fan of this undisputed thing, and then Cody beats Roman and he's then got 2 titles. We'll still have 2 titles.
Cody's gonna split it. The minute Cody wins it, the next night on Raw, he's 100% doing the Keith Lee thing and saying, "No, I want others to have opportunities," and handing the Universal title back. He's only ever said he wants a WWE title anyway, so
that's true.
Yeah, it's a babyface move. He'll probably split it the next night.
Yeah,
I mean, the one thing I know, if Sammy becomes champion, we're not going to get Sami Zayn defend his championship at Crown Jewel. That's
nope, that's not happening.
Moving away from that specific story, but keeping with the Royal Rumble. Obviously, we had both matches, both Royal Rumble matches, the ladies one and the men's one. Let's quickly rush over the men's one real quick in terms of what happened there. We had that great moment with Ricochet and Logan Paul. Phenomenal stuff. But I guess the biggest talking point for us would really be Bobby Lashley, Brock Lesnar, that whole thing with them. Mex, how did you feel about that whole thing? Has that kind of given you even more excitement or intrigue as to what we're going to get with those 2 big behemoths?
Bruv. I know I am not the only person in the world that done this, but when Lesnar's music hit, I bet wherever you were watching this is what everyone done. They sat up and paid attention, because at that point, all them man that were in there, the Sheamus, McIntyre, Lashley, Gunther, and another behemoth comes in. The energy is just different, and he came in and he chucks people about. Lesnar was in there for like maybe 90 seconds and caused collateral damage in 90 seconds. Of course, it was to, you know, further his story with Bobby Lashley, and he popped up on SmackDown the night before as well, which was good to see. surely it's in the bag now. It's surely, Lesnar versus Lashley at WrestleMania. At this point, just give me a stipulation. Put them in a cell.
Right.
Put them in somewhere, something mad. Like, I don't even think a non-disqualification is enough. Put them in a cell and let them be barbaric in a cell against each other.
Yep.
Like, I need something like that. But yeah, it looks like we're getting it, and I'm looking forward to it.
Gerard, how did you find that whole moment? And also give me like just your views on the match itself, and how things played out.
Well, in terms of the moment, I got nervous Friday night when Brock Lesnar declared himself in the Rumble. I was like, oh no, not again. But at the same time, I realized that on the back of him doing that with Lashley, at some point they were going to collide. And my hope was that they would cancel each other out, or at least Lesnar would be canceled out by Lashley. So when that happened, and I don't think people understand, that's the shortest time Brock Lesnar has ever been in a Royal Rumble. He's been in 3 others, 2 of which he won. The third one, he started at number 1 and was chucking everybody out until about halfway through the Rumble. So it reminded me, number one, it's clear that Vince McMahon is not head of creative, because if he was, Brock Lesnar would have won that Royal Rumble. Secondly, the fact that Lashley gets one over on Lesnar says, again, thank you, Triple H. We appreciate your whole life. May a jewel be added to your crown, sir. And not to be confused with Crown Jewel. So with that said, I think we're getting the match that we wanted. I think they're going to make it really big. I think it has to be Hell in a Cell, either Hell in a Cell or Fight Pit, but I think it'll be Hell in a Cell, because that is of full grandeur. It has been a long time since we've seen a Hell in a Cell match at WrestleMania. So I think this would be the right move between the 2 guys who need to be in Hell in a Cell. What does the match look like? Brutal and barbaric. What Hell in a Cell guarantees is that we don't get a 5-minute match. It guarantees that these guys are going to pull it out. We're probably going to get 15 minutes of sheer brutality. Nobody has to jump off the top of the cage. We'll be satisfied with seeing them just destroy everything. It'll be great. I think that's how this match goes down at WrestleMania.
Someone's getting speared through a cage. That's all I know.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
That is
absolutely.
Definitely. You know what was interesting? You just mentioned the Fight Pit. And you know what? That actually makes a lot of sense. Triple H has started that whole thing, obviously, at NXT with Riddle and Thatcher.
Yes.
Thatcher first.
Yeah.
Then I had it with Thatcher and Ciampa as well later on.
Right.
It would not surprise me if Triple H decides to bring that in, especially with both guys obviously having MMA background, championships, all the rest of it. That's what they're known for, and all that kind of stuff. They've got these parallel careers, and MMA's involved. So that would actually make a lot of sense. It would be a very good. It's like mixing MMA with Hell in a Cell. So that would actually be a perfect way to do it.
My only issue with it is that what would they both do on the top layer? Like, are any of those men that size, 280 plus pounds, prepared to take a drop from that height? Or you see what I mean? Like, so I don't know. I can't really expect. It'll be pretty much in the cage. Which isn't the end of the world, but then of course you have this top layer which won't really be explored or used. So
I could see it happening from Mania. I could see it happening.
Listen, get paid more than enough money. Definitely Lesnar to take that.
Well, I was gonna say Lesnar's done some crazy things at Mania.
Yeah, that's true. I believe Lashley's been on the other end of stuff like that before, so it's not impossible. It's not impossible, but that would be a nice way to do it. But I think, as we've all said, it has to be some kind of stipulation where Hell in a Cell, Fight Pit, cage involved. They can't go nowhere. The sheer brutality. It has to be that way. Keeping with this match, I found it very interesting. This is just something that I saw, and I was like, "This is so funny." When the New Day music played, the massive pop that we got both times, I think people were expecting it to be Biggie.
Yes. Totally. Totally.
Yep.
Totally.
The other thing as well with that match, I had a slight issue with the little time that Montez Ford had in that match. That was a problem for me, because I would rather have seen him get like be in this position where he was able to show him whether he wins it or not. He gets eliminated eventually, of course, but then for him to be in there, I think it was like probably not even 2 minutes. Eliminated very easily. Was a little bit of a disappointment. I don't understand so much why. I can't really make sense of it, but it happened. The only other thing as well is it was interesting. There was no NXT wrestlers at all in the men's one. It would have been nice to see a Bron Breakker, maybe a Carmelo Hayes instead of Elias. You know what I mean? Like, or someone like that, or Baron Corbin. Well, Baron Corbin's Baron Corbin.
I was thinking this yesterday. In general, I think they need to do a better job in the Rumble of putting in people that can actually win, that are actual believable world champions, or have the technical ability to actually win. Because even tag teams in the Royal Rumble, I don't really see what the point is. Like you're saying, the likes of the Eliases and stuff, I don't really see what the point is. Like at the point when we had the Gunther and Sheamus and Drew McIntyre, literally any of these guys can actually win. And then you obviously run out of those caliber of stars, and then you come down to at least the people that have been being booked consistently well on TV, like a Ricochet that deserves his place in the Rumble. Like just putting in this other fodder that you ain't see. It doesn't like mean much to me when you're saying to someone like Akira Tozawa, who was a world-renowned wrestler, oh no, you can't just ask to be in the Rumble and get in. But then Elias just strolls up with his guitar, and then Montez Ford just gets 2 seconds in there. Like, I'm sure you can fashion 30 guys, like 30 genuine contenders, or at least guys that can trouble a world champion to put in that match. Like, and it'll just be all the better.
Yeah, to that particular point, I think we all forgot that there was actually a Royal Rumble qualifying match between, Ricochet and the guy who can't seem to jump over the top rope, which kind of would have then made sense for him to be in the Rumble, right? It just makes sense. So to me, to that point, the idea that we can say top dollar, you're not qualified because you can't win the qualifying match, but then we just tell other people they're not qualified. This is the spot where the surprises should show up. The surprises that you realistically think, because here's the thing, you're asking us all, with every person that comes down that aisle, to believe at some point that they could main event WrestleMania. And so when you're asking us to do that, when it started with Gunther, I was like, okay, I could see that. Sheamus, I can see that. Drew, I can. So as these people are coming down, you're saying, I can see that. But then when you see Elias, I don't see that. I mean, like, we believe Logan Paul more than we believe Elias, because Logan Paul hung there. So to me, it's now a question of, okay, if we're gonna make these 30 slots really mean something, then now is where we go and grab, a free agent from somewhere, where we go and grab, because even if you're going to grab the NXT people, you have to be very, very specific about who you grab in this, so that's where we get to. And I mean, they were doing it. We go back to the 2020 Rumble, that's when we first saw Keith Lee show up in a Rumble from NXT, and we saw some other folks, and we literally said, oh no, I can see this. That's the key, I think, to making these 30-man Rumbles. And it's interesting because I think they did a better job with that with the women's Rumble in terms of bringing people in where you said, oh no, I can see this. I can see this. So I think they have to do
and that's the thing. Let's go over to the women's one as well. And that's the thing is, we had some ladies that came in and they were able to showcase who they were. You didn't really have that much with the men's one. It was, some people came in and they, got rid of people and, did all their stuff, but it was people that we already know, you know what I mean? So to then see Roxanne Perez, for example, come in the women's one, she did amazing. And I think even she was eliminated too, I don't know whether it's early or too easy, bit of both. For me, was a little bit disappointing. I would have rather them made it a point to have her as one of the last four. I think that would have been a brilliant thing to do. Showcase her, and put eyes again on NXT, You know, especially in the women's side of things, because at the end of the day, the last thing, I guess maybe outside of wrestling when it comes to NXT women's division is Mandy Rose.
Right.
You kind of want to get rid of all of that kind of talk and have people talk about your new champion. That would have been a nice way to do it. The other issue that we had though with the women's one, 30 women. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of people. 30 women. Of all the 30 women, one black, one Blasian. So, you know, some people do the whole argument of, is she actually black? I don't want to go there. I'm not going there. She's black. Meechim and B-Fab in the Women's Rumble. B-Fab lasted all of 10 seconds. Meechim did her thing. Great, brilliant. But is this now a talking point or something to bring up when it comes to the women's division in the WWE? Because as much as we have Bianca Belair at the top, there's no one else. And I know when that countdown, actually the countdown didn't even actually happen for the number 30 position. We all wanted and expected it to be Naomi. It was Nia Jax. Nia Jax did absolutely amazing. I'm not going to take anything away from what she was absolutely incredible. Looked great. Did her thing. Did what she needed to do. But do we have a problem right now when it comes to the women's division in terms of black females in the WWE? I'm gonna go to Mex with that one first, actually.
Like obviously we want to see more. It's not that they're not out there. There's a few cooking away in NXT, plying their trade, learning and stuff like that. Obviously the one that you mentioned, Naomi, we don't know her whereabouts, where she's gonna come back to work, if she's coming back to work. But if I am a young black girl trying to get into wrestling, or you know, adopting taking on this new sport, I'm looking at this Rumble and I'm thinking maybe, you know, you've mentioned obviously those that were in there, but you know, particularly if we're looking at someone of like dark skinned, there was nobody. So and you'll sell me that this is the biggest match and this is where the road to WrestleMania begins, and there's no one that looks like me in there.
Right.
WWE wrestling is a TV show. It's full of characters. There is no reason why you can't cast somebody into one of these 30 positions you have. Right. So it is a bit of a shame. Is it of their doing? I don't know how one looks at it like that. Yes, they are in control of it, but I think it wouldn't have hurt them to get somebody in, or even someone from NXT, or you know, whatever the case is. I mean, I could throw out a name in terms of Jacqueline or someone like that. This is Texas. They, you know, could have been a little opportunity. I don't know what she's doing these days, but like, it's a shame. It's a shame. But at the same time, I think like most people would say, how could you complain when Bianca Belair is the champion? So it's one of them ones. But
Gerard, your thoughts?
My thoughts are really, the bigger question is who's ready. I don't think this. I don't blame WWE for this. And here's why I don't blame WWE for this. Let's remember, was it December 2021, I believe, where a certain Lash legend was given an incredible opportunity against Saray, and it was called the worst match to ever air on NXT. It had to be heavily edited. They've been giving Lash Legend all sorts of opportunities. You cannot speed up someone's growth. You know, people catch it when they catch it. And I think what they have right now when it comes to NXT, I mean, let's rattle some names off. You've got Jakara Jackson, who is a great look, but right now she's been on Level Up. She's not ready for the Royal Rumble. And you know what I mean? You've got Ava Raine, right? Who, you're the daughter of The Rock, but you haven't even had a match on TV yet. You know, right now you're hanging with Schism, so she's not ready. Amari Miller, you know, who's had a few matches, but I think she's in a different space right now where I don't know that she'd be ready for the pressure of being in the Royal Rumble. I
Right.
mentioned Lash Legend. The only other possible name could have been Katana Chance, that she could have come in as one half of the women's tag champs. But again, going back to your point earlier, Mex, why would you have a tag champion in for a singles title? It's the whole reason that Naomi and Sasha ultimately left. So I think we're in a space where maybe next year, one of those or two or three of those ladies will be ready. But we're just at a point where they're not ready, and it's not like they're not given ample opportunity. What would have been worse, having them in and then having them perform poorly, or having them wait out? So I think this is just a case where they weren't ready, and I don't blame anybody for that. I just think it's just a timing issue where, if we catch this next year or the year after. Now, I'll say this: if 2 years from now we're still at a space where it's Bianca and then nobody else, okay, we're looking at something completely different. I would also suggest then that, again, we talk about potential free agents, but here's the hard part. Who are the most successful African-American female free agents that could come in to the Royal Rumble and the fans would go, wow? I don't think that's the case. There are definitely independent names that we think would do well there, but they haven't had an opportunity to be proven in front of this crowd. So I think, I don't necessarily blame the WWE for this one. I think we're just in one of those weird spaces where there weren't enough people that were ready to be able to do it. With that, I think they gave B-Fab a great opportunity, given that she's only had 2 televised matches ever, and not one of them was on the main roster. So the fact that she got in there and pulled off some great moves, I thought that was a win and a great opportunity for her.
Her little flurry as she entered was actually good. It was just a shame that it ended as quick as it did. So, as you said, I think I agree with you completely with that one. It's just a timing issue. No one else is ready. No one else is there. 2 of the other stars left, and we haven't seen, obviously Mercedes is doing her thing. Naomi still hasn't come back yet. And again, we can't expect the WWE to have an agenda of number equality. Once equality is a real thing, and that should be a thing. I don't want to see it as a tick box thing. I don't want to add people to the numbers, as you said as well. I don't want people to come in and they have they perform poorly and all the rest of it. That at the end of the day would just be embarrassing, to be honest. Totally. So I do think it is just a timing issue at the moment. It's still I think it's still a problem, but at the same time, it's not anyone's fault. I think, again, just a timing issue. We mentioned Lash Legend and others that you can't rush, but there is one woman that we all know who has basically grown up on TV in front of us, and that's Jade Cargill, of course, in AEW. Now, Jade is about to have her 50th match. She is now 49 and 0. It's looking like her 50th match is going to be against Red Velvet. What are we thinking? I know you guys kind of mentioned, I think we talked about it last time I was on the show as well. Is this the right way to go? Let me say my 2 cents actually real quick on this one. For me, this makes sense. As much as the big 50, the big 50, 50 is a milestone in so many people's eyes in so many different ways and all the rest of it. So we want it to be like this super crazy great match that's going to pull bums on seats and all that kind of stuff. But with the way that Jade has been booked, with the way the TBS Championship isn't the main championship, as much as at one point she was the talking point of women's wrestling in AEW, that's definitely died down. So for me, it makes sense that it's Red Velvet because of that being she was her first opponent as well. That's how she came in, all that kind of stuff. So for me, I'm content with it. Would I have loved it to be a bigger thing? Oh, for sure. But I'm not mad that it is them 2. The only thing I'm not necessarily getting or was the whole thing of Red Velvet coming back and then straight away turning on Jade. And you know what I mean? But apart from that, I think this is cool. Mex, what are your thoughts on Jade, Red Velvet, number 50?
I'm sorry, but this reeks. This stinks. Like, I'm so invested in these women in general.
Yeah.
I'm heavily invested in Jade and Red, but like you said, this is where it started for Jade and Red. Like, why haven't they told that story? Like, the story has been she came back, she rejoined the baddies, she left the baddies. Like, even the whole joining and leaving, it's not clear. Like, it should have maybe been a thing of she came back, or when she was fit, she tries to come back in. Jade's telling her to come back in, and she's like being a bit hesitant. And then she says, "No, I want to be a challenger. I want that title from you. And I was your first, feud here. And when you showed up, they haven't told that story. Now they're trying to sell us. They've made the graphic and they've made it all gold, and it's like." You can't fool me. Like, this isn't you. Like, you guys don't care. Like, what is this? The 50th match of someone that you've given the title to for over a year.
Right,
it's Red Velvet. Like, and no disrespect, but it doesn't give you big fight feel or anything like that. Now, the upside, I can only think the caveat here is that after Jade retains and wins this match. The person, the big feud of who is going to very likely take this title off her probably walks out immediately. That is what has to follow this segment to kind of balance the fact that Red Velvet was the choice, in my opinion. If they leave it for a week or so, I might allow them. I won't voice my opinion, but I think the person needs to come out straight away. Like,
you will the following Tuesday. You will.
Yeah, they just need to kind of show. Okay, she's got past Red Velvet. Maybe she's talking up herself again. Like, here we go, and then whoever's music hits, maybe Statlander's ready again, and it's like, right now, this is the person. Let's build a little feud towards Revolution. February or whenever it is, March, and then let's do something there.
Gerard,
what I'd like to have right now is I felt really Rick Rude there. Sorry. What I would like to have right now is everybody from AEW go invest in Peacock and go watch the last 15 minutes of the Royal Rumble and learn how to tell a story. Right here is where we see the prolific difference between all things AEW and all things WWE.
Very true.
AEW is very focused on in-ring, so you get thrown matches with no build-up, no anything. Kushida debuts on AEW and you find out on a tweet, right? Like, what is this? And so with Jade Cargill, your number one woman star who you have built for the last year and a half, you have given her 49 victims. You've given her a title that you created for the last year. She's the longest reigning champion in your company's history, and you announce her 50th match with a tweet. The story is already built. So herein is the problem. You've got to learn how to tell a story, and it's more than what they can do in the ring. It is the lead up to all of it. It is the thing that gets us invested, that makes us say, wow, maybe Red Velvet has a shot. There's a lot of history here. If we have to only depend on Excalibur's ability to explain all of their history during their 6.5-minute match, friends, it's not gonna happen. Okay, it is the job of the commentary team and all of their marketing team to figure out, how do we tell this story so that people actually tune into this. It doesn't surprise me why we're just like blah. Because they've treated it like blah. You have to learn how to tell a story. That's the problem with this whole scenario. So even if somebody walks down that aisle, here's the problem, Mex. They aren't going to save it for Revolution. They'll do it next week. Like, think about this. How many times have we waited until the week of the pay-per-view at AEW to figure out what does the rest of this card look like? And they somehow believe that in 3 days, they can go ahead and just make us excited about a pay-per-view and we'll shell out $50 because you give us. They announced the Briscoes versus FTR in 3 days.
Yeah.
Like these are the things that they've done. Keith Lee, we remember all of those things connected to Shane Taylor and all these other people. You cannot wait for 3 days to tell this story. Stories take time. They have not devoted time to Jade Cargill. They have not devoted time to Red Velvet. People are leaving and coming out of the baddies, and we don't know. We still don't know why Kiera left. We don't know. We don't. None of this makes a lick of sense. You just wake up one day and I'm not in the baddie section anymore, and then the next week you're fighting. We don't know why. If you don't tell us why, you'll never get the kind of reaction that the Bloodline's getting. Let this thing cook, simmer. Tell us a story. Stop putting us in the microwave.
And here endeth the reading.
It's unfortunate that we can't get excited about what should be a milestone moment.
Right.
You know, think about, but it's a shame. WCW handled the streak from Goldberg the same way. Like in 3 days, they announced, oh, wow, you're going to fight for the world title against Hogan in the Georgia Dome. Are you kidding me? In 3 days? Really? Are we Jesus now? Like, is that what we're doing? Like, stop playing with me. Stop playing with me and tell the story. That's the deal. You tell the story, we get interested. Life is good. Other than that, you've taken your TBS champion who's become your most popular woman, and it's just like blah.
Yeah. And here's the thing: it's like Max said, it's a very easy story to tell. A very easy story to tell. A very easy way to bring Red Velvet back in, saying, just as Mick said, she comes in, isn't quite sure, and then says, you know what, actually, I want that championship because I've got history, me, you got history, blah, blah, blah. I want to end your streak, this thing. Yep. We've not even had that, even in the weird and very, very lazy way that, they brought Red Velvet back. And
so she did cut a promo on Rampage this past week, which is arguable still to the point because what's the difference between a Rampage and a tweet? Most people don't watch it anyway. Like that. So she cut a promo saying that she's going to be the one in 49-1 and beat you. And that was pretty. And then she left, and then they turned the camera to Jade and Layla Gray, and they were laughing. So which basically underlines everything we're saying here. Like,
gosh.
So yeah.
Here's a question. What happens if very massive I and F if Red Velvet actually beats Jade?
Then it's going to be uproar because they haven't built to this moment. So if Red Velvet pins Jade, the next thing I want to hear on Wrestling Observer or somewhere is that they called an audible because Jade is injured. That's the only way that I'm going to believe what you guys are doing right now.
Yeah.
No, I totally agree.
It's crazy. Like as we've said, it's this whole thing of AEW being very, very bad, especially in, probably in the last 12 months, probably a little bit longer. Them not being able to tell a story, and I understand their ethos may be a little different. It's more, it's more about the indie stuff and that indie feel, and because it's like with the indies, very few of them. You go there and you go in there to watch a story because they happen once every month, every 2 or 3 months. There isn't space to tell a story necessarily, and you just go there to see a bunch of matches. But surely this has to be a little different. You're on TV every single week. You're then trying to compete with the WWE as well. There are definitely certain things that need to be adopted when it comes to just not even the WWE way, but just pro wrestling in general, especially being a weekly television show. And this is a real problem for me when it comes to AEW, because we can say this, we can actually say this every single week. The only story, I think the last story that we had was MJF his pursuit for, or when he came back. Unfortunately, you know, for them, I guess, you know, the whole thing with CM Punk happened and it didn't really play out the way that they wanted it to. They had to kind of recreate everything and blah, blah, blah. And they kind of almost made it work. But then even now, with this whole thing with MJF, like, what's going on? It's...
You know, yeah, MJF is a great example of how they have not figured out multiple stories to tell. So
Right.
the story of the chase was good because you had MJF sitting out for months. And we go, oh, wow, pay this man his money. He had that, you know, abysmal, you know, game-changing, destroy everything, scorched earth kind of promo. And then he comes back, he wins, he turns on William Regal. And then from there, he does the same thing that he's done with every major opponent he's going to fight on pay-per-view. You got to go through 5 guys before you get to me. Right. So you've only been in business 3 years, and we've told the same story by the same guy 4 different times.
Right.
We can't tell better stories than that. Like that. That's the unfortunate thing. It's not just Jade. I mean, if it's happening with your world champion, it's happening everywhere. That's the unfortunate thing.
And even on the other side with the women's as well, it's like Soraya's come in and now she's just turned heel for what?
Right.
How? Why? Where we
like
going?
Even the build up to that was like, oh, she's heel now. She just got here, and then this, you know, I think there again could have been a much different way to paint this whole thing of this outsiders kind of thing versus which it's. I mean, it's funny because as fans, we've talked about it for a long time. Like, okay, all these people that they're hiring from other spaces. So for them to acknowledge it is cool. But you take Toni Storm, there are other people who have come over from a great career in WWE that would fit that bill a bit better than Toni Storm, you know, as your first person. Maybe she's one of the other people that you add in, but you know.
Very interesting. It's very, very interesting. But with that, guys, our time is up. You are watching Wrestle Extra on the WrestleManiac UK YouTube channel. You can follow this guy, Mex, the WrestleManiac, on WrestleManiac UK, WrestleManiac.uk on Instagram. Of course, don't forget to subscribe and click the notification bell on the YouTube channel as well. You can follow me, A Dazzle, Black Wrestling Alliance on Instagram. And of course, Gerard Bonner with his 20 million different spaces that he's in. You can find him, The Faction Show, Bonafide, all sorts of places as well. Guys, this has been our time, and we will see you again next week.
Yeah, guys.